Yuk eir satini takat yuhan achtu yuk eir satini gunalchi shati ade kuak eya yagi anchich kwa dan ina anikayachat yati welcome in, folks. Thank you for coming here. It's good to see you all. And it's a beautiful day in Anchorage. I'm in Dena'ina land. Spring has really arrived. So it's good to see the sun. Dag un yagi ya yagi eka kayani disi kleka yawahi dis. It's Thursday, April 20th. So today we'll do pronunciation practice to start us off. And then I have some other activities continuing our theme of food, possibly kinship. We'll have a more in-depth discussion of kinship when Shakhsani Keek returns, but we'll do some of the groundwork before she gets here so that we're familiar with the terms that are available to us in our resources. So last week we created a couple show and tell examples of food. And so today, since we practice reading them and taking notes and putting them together, spelling them correctly, today I want to follow that up with a little bit of pronunciation practice. And so Lingit Class means say it in Lingit, that's our phrase book. But there's also an excellent resource called Lingit Class, hear it in Tlingit. And there are text files and audio files we can use to practice by repeating them. So I always like to reground myself in pronunciation when I learn new terms, and a lot of them are available to us. So I'll put these in the chat in case you don't have them, but they are available on clinkitlanguage.com under resources, beginning materials, and if you scroll down, they're right beneath the phrase book right here. So the Lingit first link is for the audio or for the text file, and the second one is audio files. But I'll put those in the chat so there's a little bit of a shortcut available to you. And so here's the text file. And here is the audio file. So if we look in the text file, let me find it here. You can, similar to the phrasebook, you can expand the menu in the upper left-hand side and see your pages at a larger scale. I already took us to the section on mealtime. And when I say one of the phrases that was in our previous show and tell templates, I'm thinking of Johnny Mark's voice. So one of the lines was down here under track 16, it's lunchtime. When I practice saying that, I'm hearing his voice and I'm trying to emulate it. And so I was glad I found it in the audio file so we can practice together. It's always good to ground yourself in the way a birth speaker pronounces phrases and do your best to emulate them as you study. So I'll take you to the track. So this is the text file, and then, like I said, all of the tracks are available on audio as well. So there's 2 discs, and our text file tells us a little bit above that this portion comes in disc 2. This was originally a CD, so that's why it's separated into discs. And Rene organized them into different folders for disc 1 and disc 2. There's a lot in here you can see. We'll also look at this for relations when we talk about kinship. But continuing with our food theme, if you go down to the track that I'm thinking of, it's track 16. And each one is titled, which makes it really accessible to us. So we'll start with this one, and then I'll let you guys pick what other files we want to practice. But the first one is, so I'll open it up and it'll play, and we can repeat after Johnny, and I'll open the text file so we can read along. So here we go. One sec. I have to download it. Sorry. Let me find where this. Okay, it's gonna play in my
It's
Apple.
time for breakfast.
Here we go.
Sutat athaka wuaya. Sutat athaka wuaya.
Right here.
It's lunchtime.
Sitkusan athaka wuaya. Sitkusan athaka wuaya.
It's dinner time.
Khan athaka wuaya. Khan athaka wuaya.
So those are the phrases. Let me. Do you have questions on those so far? I'll replay them. I'm just rearranging my screen here so that I can see everything. Okay, this time I'm going to play it again. One sec, and then I'm going to hit pause so we can practice repeating it. Let me make sure it'll work here. Sorry. Where did it go? I had to get a new computer, so I'm still learning it. One sec. Songs. Let me see if this will just drag in here. Okay. Are there any other tracks that you, looking at these, that you want to practice pronunciation? Let's try this one. Let me see if I can get that to play.
Are you hungry?
Itkian owaha.
Oops. Okay, so I'm going to play this again and I'll pause it and then we'll read along. That's how we'll do it. We'll read along. So the first phrase, just so your eyes will be ready, is right here under mealtime, track 12. And go ahead and unmute your mics so that I can hear you, but I'll hit play and pause and then we'll look at it and read it, trying to sound like Johnny did. Okay. Yingeiwane, are you ready? Okay.
Are you hungry?
Itkian owaha.
Iitkeyan uaha.
Iitkeyan uaha.
Okay. So I'll play it again and we'll repeat it again.
Itkian owaha.
Iitkeyan
Iitkeyan uaha.
Uaha.
Okay. And we'll keep going with this track.
Are you all hungry?
Ye itkeyan uaha.
Yi itkeyan uaha.
Yi itke yan uaha.
Okay.
Ye itkeyan uaha.
Ye itke
Yi
yawan.
itke yan uaha.
Yawan
Yi itke
uaha.
yan uaha.
Okay. So what difference do you notice between are you hungry to one person and are you all hungry to multiple people?
Just the I or yi.
Yeah.
The ye. The
Yeah, awa.
ye itke.
Yeah, awa.
The other
Kunachik.
one is itke.
Yeah, awa. The first one is iitke. The second one is yiitke. So now we can start to internalize this pattern we're noticing that if I'm talking to multiple people, it's yi. If I'm talking to one person, it's I. Okay, and I'm gonna share my screen a little different so we can look at the text while we're playing it. And I'll go like this: new share, desktop, share sound. And I'll pull it to the side. This is how I practice transcription too, is I'll make two screens and look at it while I'm listening. So here we are under track 12. The next one will be I'm Not Hungry. And I'll play it. And as soon as I hit pause, we can all say it together. And Shakeen, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I noticed that in Lingit Hinachsa, it actually has a high tone over the eat.
Oh, really? Let's look at it. So
Should be page 31.
okay, let's go to it. Oh yeah. So just like you noticed here, eat is high tone if we look in Lingit Khinaksa. It's low tone if we look at Lingit Khinakh. Now what I'm gonna do, so the tendency is to correct it grammatically, but it also could be a different difference between speakers. So I'm actually gonna play it again, and this time let's listen and see if we can hear if it's high tone or low tone. Okay, here we go. To play, I have to play it in here.
Are you hungry?
Itkeyan uaha.
Hearing that, do you guys hear whether it's high tone or low tone?
To me,
Yeah.
it sounded slightly higher on the eat.
Like compared to the like eat. Okay. Like I'm also hearing a difference between eat and ke, the way Johnny Marks says it. So I'm gonna play it again, and this is really good for our ears to tune into the tones. So I'm gonna pull this here where we can see. I'm gonna play it again.
Itkeyan uaha.
Itke awan uaha.
I do too. I think I hear a high tone on the EE. And then the last thing we can do is check in the dictionary for guidance for us on how to say it. And let's see what it says here. So I'm in the search menu. Let me find it. Eat. Let me see if I can find it and quickly scrolling through the dictionary. I think it would be its own entry. So I'm going to go down to the E's. Let's see. So EI. What did it come after EI? Let me see if I can find it. I'll put the link to the dictionary in the chat and see if you all can find it too. We'll kind of brainstorm this together. Okay, so there's the link. Go ahead and look through the dictionary while I'm looking in beginning Lingit workbook.
I have a question. Is it eat or et?
It's eat, eat. So the two E's together will be pronounced E, like the in the English word see.
Okay.
Yeah. Trying to remember which chapter has a dialogue about eating. For now, I'll add this to questions, and Shakhsani Keek will be able to help us too when she comes back. So I'll do questions, and then we'll take a note of it. Eat. Yan uaha. Are you hungry? High tone or low tone on eat. Okay, this is how I take notes when I'm learning Lingit if I have a language question, so that when I meet with speakers who know more than me, I already know what I can ask them. That's a really good question. Gunnar Chish for asking. And let's do.
I went, sorry, I just wanted to say I went to the English to Tlingit dictionary, and when I typed in hungry, it did show the eat part, and it does show high tone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I see a high tone as well.
Okay. That's awesome. Nice work. So, thank you for helping me. So, if we go into, as Shakeen mentioned, the English to Tlingit under hungry, you can see the pattern here for how you apply the language, and it does have eat as a high tone. Eat. So that's cool. That kind of reconciles what you were hearing was a high tone, and you're reaffirming that by seeing what you found in the dictionary. And let's do one for I'm hungry. So track 12. I'm gonna open this up and we'll continue with it.
Are you all hungry?
Ye itke an oaha.
Yi'itke yan uaha. Okay, so the next one's I'm hungry.
Ye itke an oaha.
I'm hungry.
Ach itjan oaha.
Ach it yan uaha.
Ach Yan Uaha.
Ach itian uaha.
Okay. And we'll do it again.
Ach itjan oaha.
Ach it yan uaha.
Ach itian uaha.
Okay. I am too. I'm hearing a high tone E under ach it yan uaha. So that E, when you listen to it and read it, you should be hearing that this E is the same tone as A and uaha. Ach it yan uaha. Let's play it again.
I'm not hungry.
Klet chatjan oaha.
Tlechchat yan uaha.
Tlelchat yan uaha.
Gatin uha.
One more time.
Klet chatjan oaha.
Tlechchat yan uaha.
Yan uaha.
Yan Uaha.
Yeah. So you'll notice under I'm not hungry versus I'm hungry, this changes, right? This verb yan uaha changes to yan wuha. And anytime you're changing something from a positive form of a verb to a negative, the way it sounds changes just a little bit. So instead of yan uaha, we say yan wuha. So let's practice. You can just repeat after me for these ones. For I'm hungry, repeat after me. Ach it yan uaha.
Ach itian uaha.
And then I'm not hungry, repeat after me. Tlechchat yan wuha.
Yan uaha.
Yan Uaha.
Okay. So I'm going to take some notes here so you can see it written, the difference I'm talking about. But another thing I'll point out right off the bat, this ach it changed to chat. And chat, we know, can mean fish in general, but it can also be a contraction of ach it. So ach it can change to chat. So let's take a note of it. And so do notes, and then I'll do a table here so it's easier to read. Do Lingit, English, change all this. Make it bigger here. Okay. So one of our phrases was, and I'm going to type it with a high tone since we heard it correctly and then we found, okay, it might just be a typo when this was typed up. Yan uaha. I'm hungry. And then tlech chat yan wuha. I'm not hungry. So if I do a small gloss below my line for my own studying practice, I would type this in as negative or not for tlech, and I'm going to put everything directly below it. And then for chat, I'm going to type it's ach plus eat. And then yan wuha, hungry. You could put negative or not. And just to highlight some of the differences of what changes from I'm hungry to I'm not hungry. So yan uaha changed to yan wuha. I'm gonna highlight just the difference. Yanwuha. We'll make it blue. Yanwuha. And I'll make them, these are the things that make it negative together. And I'll do the whole thing blue. Okay. So, any more questions on those two phrases so far?
So if eat was translated in the dictionary as hungry, what is the yan uaha part of that?
Good question. Let's actually look at that. So, eat is actually a connecting word. Let me think of the way. Let's look at it in the dictionary. The verb yan uaha is the verb to be hungry. And so eat is like in English you say I am hungry. It's a state of being that you're in. In Lingit, let's look at how it's described. So if we go in the verbs, where do I have my verbs? I'm just gonna open it up. Lingit verbs. And the verb root, is anyone able to identify the verb root in yan uaha? We haven't done this too much yet, but generally when you identify verb roots, you're looking at the last syllable of the verb. So I'm going to start with ha as my starting place. And in Lingit language learning resources, the verb root is signified by this square root symbol. So if I go in, oh, here it is. If I look it up by the verb root, ha, there's an option that includes a lot of meanings. One of them is hungry. So I'm going to click it to expand it. And now I can scroll down and look at all the different ways that Lingit makes use of one verb root. It could be to polish, to rub something till it's shiny, to garden or dig, for it to be time for it. And then if we look at hungry and expand it, again, you see this theme, which is going to look a little bit like a math equation, but it gives you an outline of how to start plugging in things to make it specific to your meaning, meaning like who's hungry, were they hungry, are they not hungry? So yan waha is to be hungry, and then eat is something that comes before it. The noun is the person who's hungry, and in this case, we're going to use a possessive pronoun, meaning my, and then eat. I'll look for ways. I'll ask my mentors how to describe this eat. But this part is showing like it's to help show who's hungry. So sometimes you might hear Shakhsani Keek when we have a guest speaker. She'll say to them, and what she's saying is thank you for helping us. So you can put different pronouns here. Is for me, ha is us, but this is also a verb. This is also part of speech you use with to help someone, to teach somebody, for that person to be hungry. We'll take more looks at it. Yeah, good question. Okay, any more questions on that before we continue pronunciation? We'll do I'm not hungry. We'll do I'm thirsty, and then we'll continue on with our activities. So pulling up, where did I put Go back here. I always have so many tabs open when I study Lingit, but I quickly lose them. So sometimes I'll have them open multiple times. It's okay. So I'm going to go back down to our text. Oh, no, that's our text. Okay, I found it. It's right here. So we want our disk. So
I'm thirsty.
Hatshawa kuch.
Hatshawa kuch.
Shawa.
Kuch.
Hatshawa kuch.
Hatshawa kuch.
Hot shower.
Shawa. Cool.
Yeah, ik e. Okay, looking at these, oops, sorry guys. Looking at these phrases, go back down here. Are there any more that you all are including in your ideas for show and tell that you want to practice pronouncing? If not, we can continue on. Let me give you a little more time. Are there any more questions on these?
I'm amazed at how complex the language is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very highly sophisticated language for sure. One way I think about it is that there's a right way to do things, like taking medicine, cooking things properly, surviving in harsh climates. You need to do things the right way. And I always think of my grandma. Anytime my grandma would give me instructions, they would always be so specific. And I always think about her when I study her first language, which is Danaka or Lingit. There's just the language is sophisticated enough to give very specific instructions. Like there's one verb, I'll have to find it, but to chew on something for like 30 seconds and then spit it out. There's a I think there's a verb for that. Yeah, it's very cool. So I'm going to put a pause on our pronunciation practice. It's a little bit tricky navigating all the different windows for it, but if you have a big screen and you're able to do this, I do recommend regrounding in something like this just to practice your pronunciation as you go. And I'm going to do just this screen again. So last week we started talking about cockles, which is yashusheit. So go ahead and repeat this word after me. Yashusheit.
Yes,
Great.
Okay. And some of the resources I included that like I'll pull if I have a topic I want to talk about, I'll pull from multiple resources. That's why you can see I have so many tabs open because I have pronunciation guides, I have my dictionary, I have my verb database, I have the beginning Tlingit workbook. And so a learner at my level where I didn't grow up speaking or hearing Tlingit, but I want to learn now, I'm pulling from multiple sources. And then the best resource is to have an elder birth speaker who can guide you. But in the meantime, this is some of the work we can do as learners to prepare ourselves for those conversations so that, for example, when Shaksani Keek will give us a correction, I know how to type what she's saying because I've been practicing with resources like this. It's always helpful to elders when you're coming from a place of having done some of the groundwork on your own. And so just an example, we had a question on Tuesday about, oh, how do you cook cockles? And I was like immediately thinking, Well, let's talk about some of the language we might use if we want to cook cockles. So yaşlı is the word for cockles. We took this sentence, I'm hungry for pilot bread, and changed to yaşlı. So that's again an example where you can switch out a noun in a phrase to make it go in line with something you want to say. And then I looked through Lingit under chapter 9 for what are like some of the phrases I might use to describe this process I want to learn about of cooking cockles. So one of them was put the pot on the fire, and we had a good discussion about handling verbs. So let's start with this last word. Go ahead and repeat after me. Sa'in.
Sa'in.
Mm.
And then with this preverb included, sa'in.
Sa'in.
So this is a handling verb that you use when you're describing a container with a spillable liquid in it, because the way you're going to handle a container like that is different from the way you're going to handle a phone. So if someone hands you a phone, as Shahsani Keek shared with us, you would tell them, give it to me, hand it to me. And so I'm just handing it like this. Something like a pot, I'm going to carry it a lot more carefully. Even a cup of lemon juice or whatever I have, I'm going to handle it differently. So use a different verb. So let's say that again one more time. Sa'in.
Sa'in.
Now these two words that come before it, does anyone recognize this word khan? We want to look it up. It's in the dictionary. Let me see if I can type the Lingit word and it'll show up. It should. It'll be under F. So fire is khan. So I'm going to do a little breakdown to help us as we practice it, also taking a look at what does each part mean. So we have some question marks because we'll get to them, where, and then I'm just going to put question marks to hold space for the click. And then I'm going to go to underneath khan. I just learned that it means fire. And I'm putting the English word directly beneath each Lingit word so that as we study it, we make a connection and kind of internalize the word order. Askatiksha. Did you have a question? Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
I think this would really help me because
Okay.
yeah.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just making a statement that, doing it this way, I'll learn the word. I'll be able to see the word and connect it to, the Tlingit pronunciation. So this would really help me.
Okay. I'm glad it's helpful. This helps me a lot too. This is how I've studied Lingit ever since I started. When I started, we were in person and I had a notebook, so everything was handwritten on notes, and I could just write it directly beneath. That way, without overanalyzing it too much, we can still get an idea and an association. So we see casein, the verbs casein or the verb casein is to put a spillable liquid. And you'll notice that it comes last, whereas in English we put the verb first. So as learners who grew up speaking English and now we're learning Tlingit, this is one thing you can do to help yourself learn the word order. And let's go ahead and look up the rest of them since we're here. And so so we have khan and then kh, and kh is on. but let's see if we can find in the dictionary where it would show us. I think I'm going to go back to and get to English because that's what I'm used to. And cook. Cook. So if you look in the gloss here, we'll look through the rest of the appearances of cook, but you'll start to see phrases with the word cook in it. And then looking at the gloss, it correlates in order with the English. So would be its, and then cook would be on it. So we're going to add that to our notes. For cook, we're going to put on. And then we just start filling in the other places. So we're going to look up and we see is pot. So I'm going to put that and then we'll practice saying it. And then what is like that. So we have that, pot, fire, on it, put it. And then it translates to put the pot on the fire. So let's continue pronouncing, and I'll zoom in a little bit more. So starting with just the word khan for fire, repeat after me, khan. Yeah. And I'm going to make sure I have my audio on correctly so that you can. Is it coming through when I say that pinched underline X? Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay, good. And then this next word is just a regular but pinched X. So the word, repeat after me, kach. Now let's practice them together.
It's just showing your purple screen.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know what happened. I was like, where did the words go?
Oh, sorry. Thank you for telling me. Okay, so let's practice. Can you see it now? Okay. Okay, so let's practice these two words together on kach. And then this whole phrase on kach ke sein. Yeah. Now the word for pot is, it starts with an underlined pinched K and it's rounded. So this is going to be in the back of your throat. You're also going to snap it and round your lips. And it's going to be really fun. So repeat after me. Repeat after me. What? Yeah, that's good. I'm hearing this be nice and smooth. When I first started learning Tlingit and still today, sometimes if a word starts with a pinched consonant, then I'll tend to automatically try to pinch the next one. It's just a habit. But you guys sound good. I had to train myself to slow down and remember only pinch the ones with apostrophes. And so let's do these two words together. We kwach. And then the whole thing nice and slow. Take a breath if you need. And say we kwach khan kach ke sein.
Okay.
So slowing down like that is really helpful for me as a learner. And when elders speak, they're not rushing through the language either. I think for me, it's something I have to train myself to do because I'm nervous and I'm like, ready, 1, 2, 3, go. And I try to spit it all out really fast, but just slow it down. And as we get more familiar with the phrase, we'll start to be able to say it quickly, but we don't need to. Any questions on that one? Okay. Now I'm just gonna close out my activity. I'm just gonna scroll through the rest of this chapter and see if there's anything else I want to say that's related to cooking cockles. And do you guys see anything in here you might want to use?
I mean, you could say like it's boiling,
Yeah,
it smells good, kind of in the frost.
yeah, let's use those. So for it's boiling, I'm gonna copy this one into my notes with and I'll add it there. So it might, oh yeah, it copies a little funny from that one. So I'm just gonna do it's boiling. And then the last phrase, it smells good. Copy this one. Flitza, flitza. Did I spell that right? Let's look. So let's practice these ones. Let me zoom in a little bit here. For it's boiling, repeat after me. Woodleuk. And for it smells good, we have a pinched TS and then a high tone so repeat after me. Flitza. Okay. So that's how we would craft a short section on Yeshute. And I really like to do this. If I'm curious about something, I like to turn it into a language exercise for me to start finding phrases and words to express myself about it. And I know the question was, how do you cook cockles? But this is a good starting point for us. As we learn, we know some of the words to talk about it. And then another thing you can do if I'm like, oh, I'm curious about this word, it's boiling, woodleuk. Again, I would say identify the verb root, which is usually the last syllable, and spell it long and low. So uk would change to ook. And then I'm just going to see if it's in the verb database. So I'm going to look it up here and type in ook.
Why did you change it to ook instead of UK?
Good question. So when we look at it in the phrase book or the way we wrote it down, it's UK, but all vowels in Tlingit can either be high tone or low tone, and then they can be long or short. And as learners, it's good for us to make the association because what happens in the language, what tells speakers when something is happening, or that's one example, is when did it happen or is it happening right now? Did it boil or is it boiling? They'll know if you whether you say uk or ook. But when we look up words, we always look it up by the long low version because that's how linguists compile them into a database like this for us. So let me take you there. As you can see, all the blue entries are our verb roots, and then we'll expand them to see the way that they change. I call it shape. People call it stem shape, but let me show you an example. So we look it up in the long low version. Ook changes to ook, just for the sake of looking it up as our starting point.
Okay.
And then we're gonna look for we heard a duh and a sh in would le ook. And so that's the version of the verb I'm going to look at. And I know this might seem a little complex, but this is how we look things up. So now I'm here in the correct form of the verb root ook, and I'm going to look down. And if you scroll down, here's where you can see, oh yeah, sometimes it's short and high like that, ook. For it's boiling, we have wudle ook, and it's short and high. It can change. So for example, if we want to say it's not boiling, as we mentioned before, a verb will sound different in the negative form. And in this case, it goes long and low. And we also lost the D, and it also changed the order of, instead of w or wudle ook, it's wush ook. Kesh wush ook. Yeah. So any questions or comments on that? Okay, we're at time, but let's just practice these two just to practice the different ways that they sound for it is boiling versus it's not boiling. So the first one, repeat after me. Wudle ook. And then for the negative, it's not boiling. Kesh wush ook. Okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. The very first one I learned, like when I first learned about that concept too, when I had that moment, like, wow, that's crazy. It was with the word khoseku. So I know is khoseku, but I don't know is kesh khosaku. And it's good to have an example verb like that where you practice the way they sound in a positive and negative form, so that over time we'll start to internalize, like, oh, I think I heard a negative form. Any questions or comments about that before we close for the day?
Okay, this is in what section? Where do I look for this?
I'll put the link in the chat. Good question. Thank you for asking. So I'll put the link. This is the online verb database. It was compiled by Augie Shawu, Carrie Eggleston, and I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. And I would encourage you, I just put it in the chat, take a look at this in your free time just to, out of curiosity, but I would do just that. Just approach it with curiosity. Like, I'm going to look at all these. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to memorize all the patterns or exactly how to conjugate it, because that will come with time. But for me, it's fun to, over time, you'll start to recognize patterns.
Okay, and so I look on the online database for verbs, and how do I find the pronunciation? I just bought a computer so I could take this class.
Oh,
so I'm really not literate at all.
that's okay. Yeah. So to practice pronunciation, I'm glad you asked that because it's helpful for other people too. One of the places you can go is the files we looked at for, where is it? Here it is. I'm going to put this in the chat and see if it shows up. To practice pronunciation, I'm putting a couple resources in there, but then the other one you'll want to go is on René's YouTube channel and just practice the sounds. So these will be consistent. The way you pronounce a high tone U is the same, and a K, and you can kind of practice sounding them out and then look through to see if your particular verb is in there. And I'm just looking, I know it's not showing up on your screen right now, but I just want to see if it's in here. That one might not be in here, but next class, I'll bring the link for René's YouTube channel because he has recordings of
Oh,
yeah, how to pronounce each sound. Any other questions or comments before we close? That was kind of an in-depth study lesson.
wow. It's a
If
little
uh,
overwhelming.
yeah,
It's a lot.
yeah,
When you realize, you know, how
yeah,
much is involved.
yeah. It's a
It's,
lot. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it is very involved.
Yeah, yeah, we try to keep it simple in this class because it's a beginning Lingit class. So um I don't want you to be discouraged, even though it's a lot. One point of guidance I would include that helps me is I think about my language learning journey as being a 20-year or 50-year journey. It's not something that I have to lock down this year or next year. And especially not just today. So, as I bring in more resources like this for you to study, I want to encourage you to just approach them with curiosity without putting too much pressure on yourself. Like, I need to learn all of this right now because it's a long, long, slow, hopefully fun journey for you.
I think the thing that helped me the most was when you would say the word and then we put the meaning below it.
Okay.
And that really makes sense to me, so I understand what each word is instead of a phrase, you know. So
Okay.
this has been extremely helpful.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Johan. Well, have a good rest of your day. Thank you for your work. I feel proud of you all. And we'll see you tomorrow. We're going to practice studying a recording, so it'll be focused more on what we're hearing, and then I'll guide you through how we write down and practice our pronunciation with that. So more of the same of that part of the study. Johan, I'll see you again.